Oh my god.
Chaotic. Ring any bells? It probably won't unless you're Danish, American, or Canadian. Chaotic lasted as a franchise for barely 5 years, creating video games, comics, cards, websites, and even a TV show before it mysteriously dropped off the face of the earth, and today, we're gonna talk about it. At the end of the video, I've also decided to treat myself to a 20-year-old $500 booster box. Stay tuned to see if I have to file for bankruptcy and how to enter the giveaway and win a free booster pack. So, let's talk about Chaotic and why you've probably never heard of it. Originally releasing in Denmark in the early 2000s as an obscure trading card game, it gained enough popularity to warrant a show on Danish television. This version of the TV show was not received particularly well, both in terms of its animation and story, and in 2006 it was rebooted for international audiences. But the way they did this reboot was kind of genius. Along with launching the new TV show being made out of the States, they also launched the card game in Denmark, U.S.A., and Canada. The show's premise was that players could scan creatures in the world and use them in competitive matches following a specific set of rules. Unlike Pokemon, which is the best comparable, Chaotic wanted to ensure the combat systems in the show, web game, TCG, and video games were as close as possible, allowing the consumer to feel a sense of cohesion throughout the franchise. Opening a pack of Chaotic cards in real life would provide several cards, each with a unique one-time use scan code. You could then use this code to port that exact card into the online game, allowing you to build a collection in real time that mirrors your actual collection. This was unprecedented at the time and still kinda is today. Closest we've seen these days is Pokemon with code cards, but you're never guaranteed the exact contents. It's just a free code for a digital pack. Anyway, as I said, unprecedented. Kids in the US, Canada, and Denmark were frothing at the mouth for more. Keep in mind, in 2006, these countries were the only ones with both access to the show and the TCG. Why? My best guess is all three of these countries were directly involved with the reboot of the brand. Obviously, it was a Danish IP. The show was owned and operated in the United States, but the first seasons were exclusively produced and animated by Bardell Entertainment in Canada. In these three countries, Chaotic was insanely popular. At its peak, the TCG was the most popular game in Denmark, second most in Canada, and third most in the United States. Later in 2008, it would make its way to other European countries, but unfortunately would disappear just a year or so later. The collapse of Chaotic wasn't because the idea was bad. It died because the business behind it fell apart. Or so we think. A lot of these are just rumors as fans scrambled together to figure out what happened. The most popular theory is TC Digital, 4Kids, and Draco, the companies that owned pieces of the franchise, ended up locked in legal battles over who actually controlled it. At the same time, expansions were hitting the shelves way too fast for players and retailers to keep up with, which left a lot of unsold product gathering dust. That's part of the reason I could even get this bad boy. They're honestly not as rare as you'd think 20 years later. Sprinkle in the 2008 financial crash cutting into the already niche trading card market, and the whole thing just crumbled. By 2010, new sets had stopped. The show was canceled, and when the servers for the online game went dark in 2013, Chaotic lost the one feature that made it special: the link between your cards and the online game. Chaotic would then be acquired in 2014 by Brian Gannon, who mentioned as recently as last month that Chaotic would be making a comeback a year from today. I've been told by the Chaotic community this is indeed legit, and production on the next set seems to be rolling, aiming for release on the 20th anniversary of Chaotic in 2026. Now that I've done a little bit of a brief history lesson, I want to talk about the video game, Chaotic Shadow Warriors, which is kind of why I made this whole video. This is a standalone game released on the PS3, Xbox, Wii, and Nintendo DS. This nostalgic piece of software was my gateway to the franchise. As a child, not only did I not have access to cable television due to my parents thinking it would rot my brain, but I was also only allowed 30 minutes of screen time per day. This is where the Nintendo DS came in clutch, because my brother and I could sneak in gaming sessions without our parents' knowledge. Now, was this game any good? I certainly thought so as a kid, but I found my old DS and booted it up again, and it just wasn't that fun to play as an adult. To be fair, I've lost a lot of nostalgia since the franchise disappeared 15 years ago, but it's definitely not as fun as I remember. Chaotic Shadow Warriors is an action-adventure puzzle game with some RPG elements. The levels consist of linear zones across the fictional world's environments where you run around solving puzzles and interacting with objects. There was a cast of characters you could play as, the same cast from the show. Each had unique powers and abilities that allow them to access areas of the map the others couldn't. One could walk over water, one could shoot fireballs, one was super strong, and one had the magical power of farts. Yeah, I wish I was kidding. He could walk through stink clouds and carry fart gas around with him, which could later be ignited. If you ask me, peak game design. Throughout these linear levels, there would of course be combat encounters. Similar to the TCG, the designers for this game wanted it to be as close to the show as possible, which means if you knew how to play any of these, you could then play anything else in the franchise. I loved this theme they had when designing their brand. It made it super easy for me to jump into battles with my friends at school, despite not having cable television, whereas they could also play with me despite never playing it on the DS. It was a really cool idea, and I think they executed it very well. Anyway, this video game, at its core, is of course a creature collector. Throughout your adventures, you can find scans to pick up new creatures, attacks, items, and mugics, which are like Chaotic's version of magic, but in the lore, the magic is mixed with music, ergo mugic. However, despite a somewhat intricate and detailed combat system, at least compared to the Pokemon games, it was just too easy. For this video, I recorded about 5 hours of footage. Never once did I fail a single battle. I know, I'm a grown-ass man, but I remember feeling that way as a kid too. Once you had a solid team, it was just basic math. Make sure your attacks added up together to wipe out a single enemy, use your mugic to buff your dudes, and sweep the team. Then do that, on repeat, a zillion times in a row. Of course, this game has progression. Just like Pokemon, you will find more powerful creatures as time goes on and learn more powerful attacks. However, unlike Pokemon, you can't level your party. If you wanted to grind up before a gym leader in Pokemon, you can. In Chaotic, you can't. As you get better creatures, so do the opponents. As you get better attacks and spells, so do they. There's no way to break from that mold. There's no way to power level or grind. The difference in power at the start of the game is the exact same at the end. What I do think makes this video game unique in my eyes is the replayability. Yes, creature collectors are by nature pretty replayable, but Chaotic takes it to another level. At the start of the game, you get to pick your tribe. Of course, I went Mepetian. I love playing as reptiles in any game I can. Your starting roster will be completely filled with your faction of choice, along with attacks, mugic, and items that benefit your tribe specifically. This choice also affects your dialogue and relations with your allied or enemy faction. Each of these 4 factions play quite differently from one another, and keeping with the chaotic theme of synergy across all media, their playstyles mirror how they act in the show and the actual card game. Mepetians, my favorite, use stealth and speed to pick off opponents and remove their items. Overworld creatures have a focus on healing and strong mugic ability. Underworld are just tanks, super heavy hitters, high HP, creature-to-creature combat. Danians are swarmy, and they can cannibalize themselves for bonuses, I think. I don't know, it's been 15 years. Regardless, your faction of choice kinda changes a significant portion of the game. It'd be like if you picked a water starter in Pokemon, and from that point forward, we're only allowed to use water types. Because of this, it heavily incentivized replaying the game. Absolutely criminal that there's only 3 save slots but 4 factions. Let me have a save of each tribe, you know? In short, Chaotic Shadow Warriors is definitely not as good as I remember. Although I was super into creature collectors as a kid and have a vast collection of Pokemon DS games, I don't think Chaotic aged well, and that's a sad thing to see. A lot of the videos on my channel are playing older games for the first time and sometimes saying they're not as good as people remember them. This is the first time that that's happened to me. Kind of broke my heart a little, I won't lie, but it's important to look at games objectively and not just with nostalgia. Still, I'm glad I went back and played it again. I had fun reliving my nights as a kid, hiding under my bed covers, playing on my DS while my parents were sleeping. But up until last week, if you asked me, I would have sworn this game was goated, like top 5 DS games ever made, and it's not even close. That's nostalgia at its finest right there. Okay. So now that we've talked about the show and the video game, the last thing to mention is the card game and this $500 worth of cardboard. As previously mentioned, the goal Chaotic had when it came to their content was to ensure it was as similar as possible across everything. I'll speed up most of the process and skip to the good bits, but if you want a chance at winning a pack from this box, I'll be giving it away on Twitter. Rules on how to enter are in the description. Now, what are we looking for out of this box? The chase cards in Chaotic are generally the ultra rares. You're guaranteed 1 per booster box. However, with this set, Rise of the Oligarch, the Giga Chase card Ane was inserted separately. So it's possible, very unlikely, but it's possible this box contains Ane and another ultra rare. Ane is a Marillion, the 5th and final tribe added to Chaotic. You'll notice it wasn't in the DS game. This tribe is somewhat new. They're easily identified by their black borders instead of the other colors we've previously discussed. So this is an uncommon creature. This would be an uncommon attack. This would be an uncommon battle gear, which is like an item you equip under your character. In the first pack, we got a super rare. Now, I have an Excel sheet on the side where I've kind of put all the prices for all this stuff, at least the supers and ultras, so I don't look too confused while describing these. But this guy right here, I think is worth, $5 or $10. By the way, the prices you see on screen are in Canadian dollars because that's what I bought the box in, so it's easier to count how much money I lost. I'm also sourcing my prices from previous eBay sales, so the card has 100% sold at the energy value of the card I have. So we're looking at hard price history, not the crazy inflated stuff, to get a more accurate figure. This card here is a rare location. Locations are used in the game to help denote who goes first and the advantages for the arena you're fighting in. This right here is a common Mujic. You can tell it's common by the black in the top right. Mujics are like spells, I suppose, and these shapes down here kind of denote how expensive they are to cast. Ooh, we got a rare creature. Seems like some of the foiling is bleeding onto the stats, which is kind of cool, but I imagine that's just the quality of the prints back then weren't super great, but cool. I'm gonna definitely sleeve that. An uncommon creature. This guy's art, I mean, that's why people love this game. Like, this art is just so really cool to look at. Another rare creature. You always love seeing the rare creatures. This guy's a Danian, and Danians specifically, yeah, they brainwash and like infect your opponents. They have an interesting play style. I never really played Danians. I was always a Mepedian enjoyer, but they're kind of cool. Mujic, attack. Ooh, super rare. Nevena. Now she's a high price one, I believe. Hearing. I remember the OG version of Hearing. He's just kind of like a cute guy with big ears, but he's obviously tainted. Rare Mepedian. This is our first Mepedian. These are my favorite. They're like lizard guys. Another rare creature. Riora. Never seen this one before. Rare Mujic. I like Mujics because they've got that, full art. They look really nice. Common location, common attack, common. Okay, that's our first rare battle gear, I believe. Ooh, rare Mepedian. Tifel. Like, the art is just so cool in this game. Ooh, very nice. I just like Marillions. I don't think this one's worth that much, but that is a really nice looking card. Flagamp. Another rare unit, Stelgar. Uncommon creature. Oh my god! The ultra. Okay, this is the ultra rare. Headmaster Anksha. This motherfucker right here is worth about $400. This is one of the big ones. Unfortunately for me, I do have him at minimum energy. His max energy is 70. So his middle energy is 65 and his minimum is 60. Okay, let me jump in here real quick to explain what's going on. This bad boy is our one guaranteed ultra rare. Thankfully, he's one of the better ones for this set. Out of 10 ultra rares, he's like the 4th most valuable, and he's Mepedian. my favorite lizard tribe. Unfortunately, I got him in minimum energy. What does that mean? Well, let me explain. Unlike other TCGs, when valuing chaotic cards, you have to take their stats into account. I did not like this part about the game when I was a kid and collecting, but you can see the numbers on the side, they're random. You could get 2 identical cards with different stats. The big one most people care about is the one in the bottom right, which is energy, or in other games you might call it HP or health. For example, here's 2 cards from my childhood. You may notice one card has 45 energy while the other has 35. 45 would be considered max energy for this specific creature, while 35 would be the minimum. 40 would exist, I just don't have a copy of it, but that would be considered medium energy. You could see why this might piss you off. This card is over 20% better than this card. Imagine pulling your Chase in Pokemon. Yeah, I'm flexing on you. And instead of a 330 health Charizard, you pulled one with 260 HP. That would suck, right? Well, that's what just happened to me. Luckily, as I said, this is still one of the better cards. This guy at minimum stats sells for around 250 USD. Max energy, I don't even know the price. I can't find any sales records for this year. I'd assume it's probably double.
But other than that, very nice card. Very, very happy to have pulled this card specifically. A super rare Mujic. Now, you never really like to see these because these are not super worth it. The creatures are definitely better in price. This is just something you may or may not use as like an event or like a spell, but it is a very nice looking card. Gear, Force Balls, rare attack. Okay, we got a rare overworld creature. I think that's the first one of the video. Another super, oh my god, we got the sisters. Wait, that's crazy. Okay, this is actually pretty interesting. We got the 2 sisters, both at max power, which is really cool. Both super rares. I think that's quite uncommon to get in the same box, but that's really cool. I'm happy with both of these. The only thing that would make this pack opening better is another ultra rare or Ani, which is more realistic than another ultra rare because Ani was inserted separately. So it's possible this box has an Ani. Okay, a rare creature. We already got that one. Another rare creature. That's nice. Oh, super rare attack. Very interesting. That's the first one I've got. This one seems to be worth about $8. Not horrible, but an attack is never going to be worth as much as a creature. However, I cannot complain. I've had quite good luck with my super rares for this box specifically. Force Balls, again, I keep getting Force Balls. Another rare, we've got like 2 or 3 of these rare creature guy. This guy glossed. Okay, last pack magic. Odds there's something good in here? Very, very little, but we try anyway. Uncommon creature, uncommon Mujic. Super rare base. Okay, this is gonna be worth like fucking $2. Well, I mean, it's kind of cool, I guess. It looks probably not super good for Mepetian since the initiative's power. I'd assume it's better for Underworlds. But, well, we got a super rare. At least we got a super rare instead of getting absolutely nothing. We also got a rare battle gear, which I haven't seen yet. Liquid Thought Evaporator. And then common.
I know I kinda ranted on hating the stat system, but it does have one upside. The treasure hunt for the coveted 5 max creature. A monster card with every single stat at its maximum can go for loads of money, even if it's not a rare. These are incredibly hard to find, more so than an ultra rare. The only one I found that was close was this guy, Bicon. You can see on the wiki, he has a max energy of 55, max speed at 50, and max wisdom at 75, so that's 3 out of 5 max stats. That turns this uncommon $3 card into something closer to 30. Here's a listing with 3 max stats, but theirs is energy, speed, and power. Mine is energy, speed, and wisdom. Wisdom is better for overworld most of the time, so my card's probably worth a little more. Anyway, this stat system does give the collector a cool opportunity to literally turn a $1 card into a $100 card, but I think gameplay-wise it was just not a great feature. So, did I make my money back? Probably not, but that's okay. This was an awesome trip down memory lane for me and was well worth the cost. I can't tell you how thrilled I am to pull a Mopedian for my very first ultra rare. These guys were my favorite tribe growing up. I love the lizards. I'm just very grateful this is the card I did pull. Not to mention, pulling both the twin sisters, both at max power, is really cool. I think I'm going to send these 3 off to get graded. I only have 1 graded chaotic card right now, and I'd like to add some more to my collection knowing I pulled them right here in this video. If you're interested in winning a free Rise of the Oligarch booster pack, be sure to check the description for how to enter. We never pulled the Ani, so it's possible that $1,000 card is sitting in this very pack. Regardless, thank you so much for joining me on this nostalgia trip, and huge thank you to my members who make these videos possible. If you want to get early access to my videos, exclusive content, and polls, consider becoming a member and supporting the channel. That being said, I've been Frostbreak. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.